Welcome back, everyone, to Getting In, a College Coach Conversation. We are talking about summer, and I can tell you that I am very excited about talking about summer because it is, well, technically speaking, it's 32 degrees here right now, but I know it's a lot colder with wind chill because I could hear the gale force winds going by my window, and I'm looking at snow on a mountain right now. Of course, my guest to talk with me about summer is sitting in 60s, maybe 70-degree temperatures. He's not quite sure. It's lovely down in Austin, Texas, and that's Zaragoza Guerra, who's a former admissions officer at both at MIT, Caltech, and Boston Conservatory. Hi, Zaragoza. How are you?
Hi, Beth. How are you?
I'm good. I'm not bitter at all that you escaped Massachusetts to Texas and I went to Maine. My choice, so I guess I have no one to blame but myself. All right, well, summer. Let's talk about summer. It is January. Well, it is technically speaking, this is airing on December 29th. So we are almost at the very end of the year. But it is time to be thinking about summer. And so I guess, what are your initial thoughts in terms of what can students do during the summer?
Yeah, it is that time of year to start thinking about summer, even though it is December. And part of the reason you want to initiate the conversation is to be able to do some of the things that you'd like to do. And oftentimes those things might either have deadlines or you want to be the first one in the door. Um, and I think whenever I'm talking to students about their summer plans, sometimes I'm getting them to think about how they want to structure their summer, how they want to spend it. And there are sometimes two academic filters that I get them to think about. One is related to their topical choice.
Hmm.
What is it that you would like to immerse yourself in, both on the academic side as well as perhaps the non-academic side? And I think uh, both of those are going to be of value
Hmm.
for any student in terms of the skill sets they want to derive from their summer experience, whether that is an academic skill set or getting a feel for um, their prospective major or topics that are just of really strong interest to them,
Hmm.
or whether or not they want to nurture a talent or they want to just really focus in on that area that they're not able to do throughout the rest of the school year just because of the demands of schoolwork and classwork and so forth. So that's one of the filters that I get students to think about. And the other would be, how might you go about it? There are three ways. One is, hey, you could get paid to do some of the things that you want to do.
Hmm.
You might volunteer your time, or you might shell out some money and pay someone else to have that experience. And I think y- you know that particular filter and looking at it from those three different angles can help give a student a sense for what it is that they'd like to derive from their summer experience. Because if you're getting paid, hey, you're learning someone is paying you for your skill set. Someone is um giving you, putting a monetary value in what it is that you're giving them over the summer, which can be a really great thing. If you're volunteering, sometimes you're giving, of yourself to
Hmm.
an experience. um and sometimes students might want to just simply consume information, and it could be that you're paying for an experience. So those the cost of something, whether it's free, whether you're getting paid for it, or whether you're paying someone else, can determine what you get out of your summer
Yep,
as well.
absolutely. I mean, I would go so far as to say that for me, it's not that there isn't value in something that you pay for. I do think there can be value in that because in some cases, maybe you're paying to get exposure to engineering, which you can't get in high school. And now you're figuring out, everyone's always told you, oh, you engineering be perfect for you. You like math, you like science, engineering. Then you do a summer program and you realize, wow, I really don't like this. Or, oh, this is they were right. I like math. I like science. I love the way that these combine to create something new. I want to do more in this area. What I don't love, though, is that many of those programs are very expensive. And I think at the end of the day, families attach a lot more weight to those programs run by colleges than they
Mhm,
should. And
mhm,
so, if our listeners take nothing away from this other than this message, I would say that you do not need to spend money to have an summer experience that will not only be beneficial to you as a student, but will also, you know, be impactful in your college application process. So,
yeah,
my plug.
I agree there, and, one of the things that, I think about, and that I would think about as an admission officer when I would read an application, if not necessarily that, paying for a program was a turnoff. It was more um, along the lines of, hey, someone who created their own experience. They
Hmm.
didn't pay for something, they really hustled and they worked for an experience to make it happen. That takes oftentimes can take a little bit of a gumption. And when you read something like that, or the context that that's all the effort the student had to put into to pull it off, it really does you know enhance their
Right,
particular story.
right.
um,
Well, and we always talk about, right? How do you stand out? Well, one of the ways you do that is you don't do what everyone else is doing. So, with the student who has hustled and figured out a more unique summer experience, that's already, you're the only one who had that versus the hundreds of others who studied on a college campus and did a
mhm,
prescribed program that their parents paid a lot of money for. Or,
mhm,
in fairness, perhaps the student raised the funds to take that class. And
mhm,
it's not, but the assumption,
mhm,
for better or worse, is that this is, you know, it was, I'm doing air quotes again for those not watching, easy or easier.
mhm.
Um, so again, we're not against these programs. We're just saying if you as a parent or you as a student are thinking, this is what I need to do, or I don't know how we're going to afford this, but we need to afford this, I would highly encourage you not to afford it. So
Yeah.
here's the thing. Oh, sorry, Z, you were gonna add
No,
something.
no, and I would say, students can take this filter and apply it to anything.
Hmm.
Even if it is taking classes, you could pay to take classes, or you could, pay for an experience that's probably not as expensive, perhaps a more local option, or you could get a scholarship
Yeah.
to do it, or perhaps you've um, done enough coursework in school that you could get paid to teach something or
Hmm.
to tutor someone over the summer. So you can take an academic experience and look at that academic experience through any of these
Right.
different cost options, whether
Right.
it's that or whether it's an arts experience or whether it's an athletic experience. There are a number of ways that students can either get paid
Right.
or pay
Or
or
pay.
volunteer.
Or volunteer, right? Absolutely. And one thing I do also want to stress here is that we are not saying that coursework over the summer is the thing that you definitely need to do or should do. In fact, in many ways, the colleges will already know what you could do in the classroom, right? The summer
Hmm.
is an opportunity to maybe do something different and
Hmm.
show a different skill set. What
Hmm.
are your thoughts about a plain old run-of-the-mill job? You go and you work at Starbucks or you scoop ice cream or, lifeguard. What do you think about that as a summer experience?
To be quite honest, I love it.
I do too.
And
I did that.
I did it when I was young,
Right.
and it's not necessarily I don't necessarily love it because it's something that I'm familiar with and something that I did. I like it. To be quite honest, when I look at a lot of student resumes, it does stand out nowadays because there
Yeah.
aren't so many students who are seeking out jobs. Oftentimes, students think that they do need to go for that academic experience, or that they do need to go on spend time on a college campus in order to, make their application stand out. When in fact, the reality is, getting a job is standing out because at least from what I see, not
Right.
so many students do that anymore. And, I was helping a student with their resume the other day, and they had to pick a certain amount of activities uh, that they could, display on their academic list for their colleges. And, when it came down, when push came to shove, I'm like, you really need to put down that summer job because it is unusual. You don't
Yeah.
see that often. And, um, you know, I like knowing that you got paid for your effort. Someone paid you
Right.
to put in that effort, and they valued you enough. They valued your experiences and your skill sets and what you had to offer, so much that they put a monetary value on that
Right.
and gave you money for it, and which is a great thing. And not only that, I think oftentimes these summer jobs, even if it's a job at Dunkin' Donuts, this is an experience that is going to put you in touch with people who you might not necessarily associate with in high school. You might come into contact with a different generation of individuals, who've got different life experiences. I've seen some students who've even been able to demonstrate their talent and their social skills within a Dunkin' Donuts job that they get promoted to manager and they're
Yeah.
managing people. So yeah, by golly, that can be a really wonderful experience. And whether or not you're applying to a business school or any other school within a university, it it it
Yeah.
really does show chutzpah.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, and I will give some concrete examples of two students who I am working with this year, who each of whom had a very regular run-of-the-mill job. Actually, each of whom worked at a cafe. That is not a secret. That's no magic bullet. You work at a cafe, it's all. But they both did happen to do that. And both were accepted to two separate, highly selective institutions in the early decision round. I think one caveat I would throw out there is that 10 hours a week, now you're kind of dabbling. Each of these students worked 40 hours, and in some cases, a little more than that a week. Sometimes that's tricky for a high school student to get a job where you can work 40 hours a week, but I've seen other students do two jobs, each
Mhm.
one of them 20 hours. So they are essentially working a full-time position, just in this case in two different. So if you're going to do a job, really do a job. If you are going to do a job, that doesn't mean I'm going to scoop ice cream for 10 hours a week and hang out on the beach with my friends. It means maybe that you are going to scoop ice cream for 40 hours a week or
Mhm.
at least 25 hours a week, right? So
Mhm.
you want to make it robust.
Mhm.
Um, so in terms of, we mentioned, right, that when students show chutzpah, they find a really great opportunity, they create one for themselves. How do they do that? That's kind of the $1 million question. So what tips do you have for students who want to create a unique opportunity for
Mhm.
themselves? I think you, at the beginning of our segment, you mentioned that, they're taking an interest they want to explore. Maybe it's something they want to explore further. Maybe it's something they want to explore because they've never had an opportunity to.
Mhm.
Maybe it's academic. Maybe it's not. In any of those situations, what do they do from the, okay, I know I'd like to know more about X. Now what?
Yeah, I think oftentimes if a student wants, let's say, an experience in an academic environment or in a nonprofit environment or even within a business, as we're talking about these three different models of paying and getting paid and so forth. um,
What?
I'm oftentimes encouraging students, hey, think of your academic interests. So let's say we're talking about something academically, and you want to immerse yourself in a particular topic. Take a look at your local universities, because I guarantee more than likely there's someone at that university who's exploring that particular topic in depth. I'm oftentimes having students go to these local universities' websites, take a look at the bios of all the professors who are there, find some professors or some people who you might want to work with, who you might want to take have as a mentor, and and you know, craft a letter to them specific to their particular research. Let them know that you know them, that, hey, you admire the work that they're doing. And don't discount the fact that you're a high school student. Let them know what you have to offer. And that could be a strong interest in biology, coupled with, some dabbling in computer science and so forth. And let them know, you know, hey, I've got this strong interest here. Could you use an
Hmm.
assistant over the summer? This is the time I'm available. You might get a lot of no's, but someone might give you a yes. And you
Right.
can carry that over to, anything. It could be a local startup, a local business. Ask your parents, ask your teachers. Do you know of any local small business owners who could use, perhaps someone over the summer to help them out with experience A, Y, and Z? These are my skill sets. Pull your resume together, find out who those people are, canvass them, send them a letter. Someone might say yes. It could happen in the nonprofit world as well. I had a student who was interested in economics who got a job, with a nonprofit giving tax advice, to
Right.
local people. So, that's a real world experience, and it helped, his with his interest in economics and dabbling with it in some ways. Think about it. There are a lot of housing legal aid um, nonprofits out there. So if you've got an interest in real estate, maybe you might be able to volunteer there. Or you could get paid by interning at a real estate office. So there are a lot of different ways to look at this. My recommendation is this: if there's information on the web, at universities in terms of who works there and who's doing research, that's easy. You can look it up and cold email professors. And there are a lot of really great websites. Stanford has a great website that describes that. UC Santa Cruz. They even give sample Canvas emails that
Hmm.
students can use as examples. And as I said, you can carry that over to other realms, whether that's the business world, which means you just have to ask around people in your local community or even in the nonprofit realm as
Right.
well.
Right. Yeah, I think, for I love the advice about looking and seeing what people are doing in terms of research, and then also just your own personal network. And you might say, I don't have a network. My parents don't have a fancy job. They don't know anyone, but you do know teachers. And actually, you'd be surprised. Your parents might not have fancy jobs. They might not know anyone, but they might have a friend who knows someone who has a friend who knows someone. It is amazing to me that if you just start to tap your networks, you could be surprised at where that ends up leading you. And I would strongly encourage you to consider your teachers as part of your network. I don't think there's anything a teacher would love more than to hear that you have an interest in a particular subject that they teach in some cases, right? Or in many cases,
Mhm.
maybe not. They just love when kids are interested. And I think you'll find that if they know of anything that could be of help, that they will at least point you in the right direction, even if they can't connect you
Mhm.
with a person. So there
Yeah,
are opportunities. Zaragoza, thank you so much for joining today. I really appreciate it.
you're welcome. My pleasure. And stay warm, Beth.
Yeah, I'm going to do my best. All right. So we are going to take another quick break. And when we come back, we are going to give you some tips on how to handle it if your college student comes home from that first semester and says, yeah, I think I really want to transfer. So don't go away.